Hello and welcome to the National Security Conversation. Over the past few weeks, we have been discussing Jammu and Kashmir with a variety of people from various perspectives. Today, we are discussing Jammu and Kashmir once again, this time with a guest from Jammu and Kashmir, Mr. Shah Faesal. Shah Faesal is a former Indian bureaucrat, a doctor by training, and the first Kashmiri to top the civil services examination in India in the year 2009. He resigned from the civil services in 2018, comparing his years in Indian bureaucracy to being in jail, where he was reduced to imposing curfews and jailing people. Earlier this year, he entered electoral politics in Jammu and Kashmir, launching his own political party, the Jammu and Kashmir People's Movement. So in this episode, I will be talking to Shah Faesal with a well-known Pakistani TV journalist, Rahim Shamsi. Shamsi currently hosts a show on Pakistan's Samaa TV called Sawaal with Shamsi. So today, Shah Faesal, a Kashmiri politician, will be quizzed by an Indian academic and a Pakistani journalist. Shah Faesal and Shamsi, welcome to the National Security Conversation.
Thank you, it's great to be here.
Shah Faesal, tell us about your experience of growing up in Jammu and Kashmir at the height of militancy in the 1990s.
Firstly, it's a very nervous moment for me. I mean, facing somebody one from India and one from Pakistan, it's going to be a very, very tough thing, a very tough conversation for
We've been facing both India and Pakistan for a long time.
So yes, I mean, when it comes to growing up in the years of conflict, we have literally seen nothing of life in last 30 years. Our education got impacted, as would education in any conflict-ridden society in the world happen. The childhood got impacted. We got extreme exposure to violence, and the social life got disturbed. There were broken families around us. I remember my own school it got gutted very early in my primary school time, and we had to take our classes in the open, under the shade of a tree. And the classroom would shift from morning to evening as the sun would shift. So it has been a very, very difficult time, I think, in Kashmir all these years.
But despite that, you chose to participate in India's sort of civic life. A lot of people might have chosen a different path.
I think what happens is that when you face adversity, you also develop a certain element of resiliency in you. Over a period of last 30 years, I think Kashmiris, if we have learned one thing, it's about surviving. So what are the opportunities of survival, and what are the opportunities of moving up the social ladder for us? A lot of people want to do positive things in life, and I think adversity has been something which has been a motivator for me personally.
Do you think you've had to compromise to survive?
Not exactly, but yes, the kind of legitimacy questions which people ask when you seek employment in the Indian institutions, or maybe because people have a certain kind of perception about the institutions around us. Those institutions are judged as per the political debate, on which side of the political debate do you fall. So because bureaucracy is a highly contested institution when it comes to Kashmir, and that too, being a part of the superior civil service in Kashmir, it was definitely a very tough choice. I don't think I made a compromise, but I do feel that there were a lot of questions around why I made that choice.
So I'm going to ask a question here, because there's a follow-up here. And the follow-up here is, did people, your family, people around you, question your choice?
My family did not question the choice immediately, but I think during my entire career of 10 years in the civil services, there was a very strong parallel narrative being run that this was not a right choice for a Kashmiri, because I may agree with that understanding or not, but definitely a lot of Kashmiris do see Indian state as an occupationist state. So somebody who is part of that state, it had become a lot of questioning would happen very often, that how can you be a part of a state which is in dispute with the people of the state.
When you topped the civil services, you actually wrote that joining the IAS is a punch on all those stereotypical notions that Kashmir can only produce terrorists, and that being a technocrat, you can only talk about things, but being a bureaucrat, you can actually change things. So why did you resign after 10 years if these were your notions?
Basically, look, being in Indian civil service is about engaging with the Indian state. It's about seeking your share of power in the Indian state. And for a society like Kashmir, which sees very often itself at the receiving end of the Indian state, it was a very positive aspiration for me. And for those 10 years, whatever we say, we may have issues with the political mainstream, we may have issues with the civil service, but finally when it comes to the day-to-day running of the affairs in Kashmir for the last 70 years, you may call it a disputed territory, whatever the day-to-day routine administration, the education, the health, the social welfare, the road building, the school building, everything has been done by this apparatus, which is a disputed apparatus or a contested apparatus. So finally for me it was doing something positive. I did something, tried my best to bring change in the society, did my little bit, very satisfied about the tenure I had as a civil servant. But then going into politics was a decision not basically driven by the inadequacies of civil service. It was more about the scope to do maybe bigger things in life.
When you topped the civil services in 2009, it was read as a sign of normalcy in Kashmir. And when you resigned last year, it was seen very, very negatively in New Delhi. In fact, in a Facebook post, you wrote, you are resigning to protest against the unabated killings in Kashmir and the lack of any sincere reach out from the union government, the marginalization and invisibilization of around 200 million Indian Muslims at the hands of Hindutva forces, reducing them to second-class citizens, insidious attacks on the special identity of Jammu and Kashmir. This is a lot of disillusionment.
No, this is not disillusionment. I think both these events were misinterpreted because you cannot extrapolate personal success stories and talk about the success stories of the entire society or try to say that, okay, somebody qualified civil services, somebody went into acting, somebody became an artist, somebody became a pilot. So this reflects the larger reality of a society. I think that's part of the narrative building. That's part of the misleading narratives that we try to build in a conflict zone. So I said that my success story was an individual success story. I enjoyed my time in the civil services. As a public servant, I tried my best to do things. But this time, I am giving up civil services. See this as a personal choice. And do not bring this positive and negative narrative into it.
But you can't deny the fact that in a conflict zone, your personal choices will have political implications.
Everything we do is politics. Everything we do is impacted by politics. There's nothing like apolitical activities, even in a conflict zone or a non-conflict zone. My belief is that when you do something, you want to bring change. In a conflict zone, for that matter, I mean, you don't have to build narratives around it, that this is how everybody should be like. You do not create role models out of everybody, because I may not succeed tomorrow as a politician. I may not have been an honest bureaucrat. So what happens to that narrative which you're trying to build around an individual? You cannot ignore the larger realities which the conflict throws at your face. The larger reality is about that there's extreme disruption in the education system, that there is extreme corruption in the system, that there's extreme militarization of the system. Those larger realities cannot be ignored because somebody tops civil services. So my understanding from day one has been that the narrative which was being built around my success was faulty, and the narrative which is being built now about my resignation is equally faulty.
Okay. Do you feel that because of your success and because of the information black hole in terms of Kashmir, that you are assigned certain stereotypes? But I'm very curious what you think are stereotypes of Kashmir in Pakistan.
I have been interacting...
Or Kashmiris, yeah.
In Pakistan. I have not had much of interaction with Pakistanis, but some of the colleagues which met me while I was studying abroad, people from Pakistan, I have had very detailed conversations with them that, what do you think of us? And what do you think are our political aspirations? What do you think, why are we fighting for? What's this entire question about India, Pakistan, Kashmir, this stuff happening for the last 70 years about? And I have got extremely conflicting opinions from, and some opinions which I had never thought about, basically that.
Yeah, but as a former civil servant, as a Kashmiri politician, mainstream politician, you're not part of the Hurriyat conference or anything. What is your take on Pakistan today? I think that's important. It's not just as a student or as a youngster, but as a Kashmiri politician, as a former bureaucrat. What do you think of Pakistan?
As a politician, what I see is that Pakistan has been a party to a certain dispute, because if you talk about the dimension between Delhi and Srinagar, then we can say, if I was just talking about the relationship between Delhi and Srinagar, and if I go by the integral part rhetoric of the Union of India, then I would say that Pakistan is a nobody. But we have to also acknowledge the fact that there are United Nations resolutions to that effect. That Pakistan and India have been together talking about Kashmir issue for many years. That whenever there is talk of a dialogue, Kashmir is often talked about. And Pakistan often keeps on saying that, oh, this is the core issue. India says, no, this is not the core issue. There are other issues around. So Pakistan and India have been together in a certain conversation. And I always see that Pakistan is a participant in that conversation. It's a party to
So you don't think it's a stakeholder, but it is a part of the conversation.
If you go by the United Nations resolutions, if you go by the debate in rest of the world, Pakistan claims itself to be a stakeholder. But for us, when you talk about the debate within the parameters of the Indian Union, so the debate there is that Pakistan is a nobody. The question has already been settled. So you will ask me, what is your position about it? Is Pakistan a stakeholder or not? Pakistan is a stakeholder when it comes to the part which is with them. Absolutely no doubt in that. There is a portion of territory which is with Pakistan this time, and Pakistan has been claiming ownership to that portion, and India has been claiming to an ownership to a portion of Jammu and Kashmir which is with the Union of India. When it comes to Pakistan being a stakeholder in the entire dispute, I mean, open to interpretations.
But the question that I had asked, and we hadn't quite gotten to the answer, was, I'm very curious about what you think are the stereotypes about Kashmiris in Pakistan. And I'll tell you some of the examples, just in terms of, do you think it's a problem that in Pakistan you're framed as a victim, which you are, especially in terms of human rights violations by India? This is something that we get a lot on state-run television, but also on private media channels. Burhan Wani is obviously a huge name in Pakistan, admired. Hurriyat leaders, Yasin Malik, these are the people that we hear about, these are the people we can talk to. Is there a problem with that stereotyping?
There is. There is, because what has happened ultimately is that Kashmiris have lost their agency over their own future. What is happening is that there are two ways of looking at Kashmir. There's a Pakistani way of looking at Kashmir, and there is an Indian way of looking at Kashmir. There are Indian icons and there are Pakistani icons. There are Indian agents and Pakistani agents. There are no Kashmiri agents. There are no Kashmiri politics. There is no Kashmiri leadership which could be possibly seen as an organic, as an indigenous, as something which is a very natural. So I think in this entire stereotyping and in this entire division, somewhere Kashmiris have lost their agency. And I have a problem with that.
As a newly minted Kashmiri politician, how are you going to do things differently? I'm asking this because many people from the separatist camp have joined mainstream politics in Kashmir. And some people say they haven't probably done anything very differently. So what is it that you are going to do differently in Jammu?
I think what we are trying to do is that we have come into politics by choice, number one. We are not a dynasty politicians. We do not come from any political family in Kashmir, number one. Number second, we have taken this decision of joining the electoral politics at a time when the space for electoral politics has shrunk a lot. We are saying that we are operating in a nanometer space because electoral politics is seen by the separatist camp as an anathema to the idea of self-determination. They say because elections, we have a problem with elections. What is the problem? Elections are seen as an affirmation of the status quo. And elections are presented by the Indian state as an affirmation and attestation of the status quo by the people of Kashmir. So we have nothing to do with the elections. Now you have the Indian mainstream, which used to see some value in the electoral mainstream in Kashmir. Of late, they have been pushing back a lot and saying that, oh, this electoral mainstream has destroyed. This is not electoral mainstream of our type. We want an electoral mainstream which is in sync with the policies of the BJP. And these people are looking for, oh, they are separatists. So now this electoral mainstream is being shrunk from both sides. So we have made this choice of entering the electoral mainstream at a time when the space has shrunk completely. And we are trying to revive it and finding some meaning in it and telling people that we can find some solutions through this mainstream.
You know, the most emotive slogan in Kashmir today is "Hum kya chahte azadi." Now, as a mainstream politician in Kashmir, what do you understand by azadi? What is your take on azadi?
I think azadi is, people have been completely clear about what azadi means. I do not need, you have had a 30 years long insurgency in Kashmir around this slogan of azadi. That what azadi basically means sovereignty. I do not need to kind of put words into your mouth, or I do not need to reinterpret the idea of azadi for people when it comes to the politics of the place. But then at the same time, azadi should also reflect what is doable, what is achievable. what's practical.
So in your opinion, you go by the latter definition of Azad?
I would go that, the aspiration can be anything. You can ask for the skies. But then politics is all about being realistic, about leading societies and nations to realistic goals. Politics cannot be about having unrealistic expectations and ignoring the geopolitical realities of the time.
You've been very critical about Pakistan's role in the separatist movement as well. But Pakistan's position now is that it has no hand in the separatist movement. It's indigenous. This is something organic. What's the reality on the ground?
The reality on the ground is that over a period of last maybe 10 years, there has been a growing indigenization of the militancy happening there. Absolutely no doubt in that. But we would want that India and Pakistan should, rather than trying to fix blame on each other, that who is promoting militancy, who is promoting insurgency, are the human rights violations promoting insurgency, or is Pakistan sponsoring the insurgency?
But if Pakistan is indeed sponsoring it, as you say, what is the form of this sponsorship?
That's my point. My point is that these two countries have been, throwing these accusations at each other that no, this is not the human rights violations incited insurgency, but the causes, because the causes are across the border. So I mean, my idea this time is that let's not go into the blame game. Our point is that 120,000 lives have already been lost. There have been around 25,000 custodial disappearances in the last 30 years. A war has not led to any good for any of us. We have seen killings from Pakistan, on Pakistan side of the LOC. We have seen regular killings happening on this side of the LOC. We are saying that let's not get into this semantic debate about who is doing what. Let's now let's now move on. Let's try to figure out non-violent democratic alternatives.
But it's not just semantics. It's a political debate. It's actually
a political
key.
debate.
It's more than just semantics.
We are saying that can we figure out some non-violent democratic alternatives of enforcement and seeking your political rights? My entire argument in Kashmir this time is that there is a non-violent democratic alternative. People are saying, though there is not, there has been extreme militarization happening. 700,000 soldiers are placed in Kashmir. How do you expect a non-violent democratic method to succeed even? But then I'm quoting a lot of history, and there are obviously a lot of studies which tell us that it's finally the non-violent way of resistance, the non-violent way of agitation, which helps you in seeking political rights for yourself more than the violent ones.
If that is what your objective is, what is your message or request to the establishment in New Delhi and in Islam?
Our message this time is that we are trying to protect what is with us. There are certain political rights which have been guaranteed to the people of Jammu and Kashmir by various prime ministers who have come over a period of time. If we are today talking about Article 35A, if we are talking about Article 370, we should remember that the accession was done on certain conditions. Today, nobody can tell us that those conditions are forgotten. Those conditions are irrelevant. So we are saying that if we are asking for protecting what is with us, you need to respect those conditions. You need to respect those promises. That promise has been made by nothing short of the Prime Minister of India to the United Nations.
But Shah Faesal, you are talking like just another Kashmiri politician. What makes you different? What is it? What makes your agenda different? What different are you offering to the people of Jammu and Kashmir? Every other politician talks this language.
Doesn't talk like this. What is happening is that if you talk to people, have already taken positions. For National Conference, Kashmir is already a settled dispute. National Conference people are accessionists. They believe that accession happened, that's final. Separatists believe they are separatists. They believe that separatists is the only solution. Kashmir issue has not been resolved yet, okay? Then you have PDP, they call themselves soft separatists, okay? We are saying that we are not taking any of these positions. Congress is integrationist. BJP is assimilationist, okay? You will ask me, what are we? We are resolutionists. We are resolutionists. We are saying that resolve this dispute, resolve this violent conflict, whatever way you want to resolve. So basically, taking no position is also a position.
Taking no position is also taking the position. But shouldn't you be offering solutions?
We are. We are saying that there are 100,000 ways of resolving a conflict. You have so many models.
But if you want to have your voice heard, if you want to be involved in the process of resolution, surely you should have more ideas on how to resolve it.
The resolution process is a tripartite dialogue. It's about involving Kashmiris and the people of Jammu and Kashmir in deciding the future of the state. When India and Pakistan sit together, they should have no hesitation in taking Kashmiris and the people of Jammu and Kashmir, I would say, people of Jammu, people of Ladakh, they have their aspirations as well. Take them on board and then decide the future course of action. You will find out thousands of models. People have been talking about Ireland model, people have been talking about Nepal model, about Sri Lankan model, Scotland model, about self-rule model. I mean, there are thousands of models.
In fact, you said that the objective is to end the culture of violence in the state and go back to the period between 2002 to 2007 when Vajpayee and Manmohan Singh negotiated with the Pakistani side and brought a ray of hope to Kashmir. So you're basically talking about the Manmohan Musharraf formula. So what is it that your party is willing to do in order to nudge New Delhi and Islamabad towards that?
We are not saying 2005 to 2007 is the resolution paradigm. We are saying confidence building measures have to be made, and a situation of calm has to be there in which a conversation can happen. So we are saying that India and Pakistan first need to talk to each other. Constantly, that has been something which we have been trying to promote, that Balakot type situations cannot sustain in the longer run. These two countries need to sit together. Musharraf and Manmohan, Prime Minister Manmohan Singh and General Musharraf, when they sat together, we did see a period of calm. That calm will lead to a situation of dialogue, a situation of conversation, where then final maybe some resolution, some sort of solution can come on later on. I'm not saying that 2005, 2007 is the resolution paradigm.
Yeah, I want to say that the problem with the Musharraf-Manmohan resolution is that because he's a military dictator, there's a lack of legitimacy involved as well. I mean, it might have resolved matters in the short run, but without approval from parliament, from people across the board as well, it really doesn't have the kind of legitimacy it should have. But coming to Prime Minister Imran Khan, you've been openly asking for his Nobel Peace Prize for him. Do you think his coming to power, because he is saying a lot of things that other prime ministers have also said, what do you think is different?
As a Kashmiri, I have often been very vocal about Imran Khan's politics, and I have said that he has achieved that position of power after a long struggle, and that struggle has been something which has been very inspiring for all of us. And we see Imran Khan as somebody who espouses progressive values. And after Wing Commander Abhinandan's release, I did definitely recommend that. I said he deserves a Nobel Prize even. But then, having said that, I am also saying that it will finally be the onus is on both the prime ministers, Prime Minister of India and Prime Minister of Pakistan, to take forward that conversation. Otherwise, things are really going to be, you were talking about what is my idea of resolution. My problem this time is that Kashmiris are this time fighting an existential battle. Whatever is with us, the Article 35A, the Article 370, you are hearing about delimitation, you are hearing about demographic change. This is not something which we are used to. These conversations, there have been a lot of traditional sensitivities with respect to dealing with Kashmir. Those sensitivities are somehow, all of a sudden we are seeing those sensitivities disappearing. So we are really, it's important for us to engage with the government of India and convince the government of India that those sensitivities need to be respected. And while the internal dimension is being addressed, you also need to address the external dimension and have a dialogue with
But there's also frustration because Kashmiris, and I don't want to speak for Kashmiris, this is my perception only, I just want to clarify that as well. If citizenship rights are being taken away from you, if the use of pellet guns isn't enough, how can you be hopeful for resolution?
It's finally the Kashmiri who is getting killed. Be it, when cross LOC firing happens, it's the Kashmiri getting killed. Be it the routine counterinsurgency, it's the Kashmiri getting killed. Be it the war when it happened, it was the Kashmiris who got killed. So Kashmiris are the primary stakeholders, primary victims of the conflict between India and Pakistan. And that's why we have no choice but keep on pestering that we need to do it, even when we do not see any hope immediately of this happening. So that's why we are saying that Jammu and Kashmir cannot sustain in the way it is happening at the moment, and we need to do something about the conflict immediately. And these two nations need to come together and build an environment of peace in the region if we want things to move forward.
Shah Faesal, flexibility is at the heart of pragmatic politics. But you've been very critical of the coming together of the BJP and the PDP. And some people would say that this was the coming together of the North Pole and the South Pole, and there's a need to bring Jammu and Kashmir together. So are you saying that you would not be willing to make any flexible political choices in the days to come in Jammu and Kashmir?
It was not a question of flexibility basically about PDP and BJP, because PDP's existence was by default because they opposed BJP and they educated people that BJP is an existential, it's a constitutional threat to the state of Jammu and Kashmir. PDP's entire politics was based on separation from BJP. So when they finally decided to merge or maybe go into an alliance with BJP, it was a complete subversion of the people's mandate because the vote had been given on keeping BJP at bay. That was my problem with BJP. And because BJP basically, what's our problem with BJP is that BJP is unlike any other mainstream centrist political party. BJP believes in assimilation. BJP believes in abrogation of all those constitutional guarantees which have been given to the state of Jammu and Kashmir. That's why people are having problems with BJP. Otherwise, BJP is just one more political party. In fact, you will recall that when Congress initially came to Kashmir earlier in its 50s and 60s, Congress used to be equally abhorred and hated political party as BJP is today. But over a period of time, Congress did realize that there are certain sensitivities to be respected when it comes to dealing with Jammu and Kashmir.
But I just want to sort of ask you, because you admire Imran Khan and you talk about his struggle for 22 years, but he was also flexible in his political positions. He was very much against the interference of the agencies and the army in political parties, in the political process. He spoke very strongly against, obviously he still does, politicians who are corrupt, people who are electable, as we call it in Pakistan, and yet he included electables in his party. He included corrupt people in his cabinet as well, and he's made deals with the army. So he was flexible as well. Don't you see that you would have to be flexible if you want to survive?
But this is a different question. It's about
in electoral politics.
It's about being a friendship between the deer and the leopard. It's very difficult to make it because unless BJP changes its position vis-a-vis Kashmiri politics, unless BJP believes that it's important to respect certain constitutional guarantees, it will be hard for any political party in Jammu and Kashmir to work with them.
I think this was a fantastic conversation where Shah Faesal was quizzed by an Indian academic and a Pakistani journalist. We wish him all the best in his political endeavor. Thank you, Amber. Thank you, Faisal.
To receive instant updates on all videos from The Wire, click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon. Pay to support independent journalism. Click the link in the description and choose the amount you want to pay.